necessary ingredients, but we do. Check it. We got what you need, you want it. We know what you want, we got it. We know what you feel, you want it. We got what you want, you can have it. We got what you need, you want it. We know what you want, we got it. We know what you feel, you want it. We got what you want, you can have it. Orientation in this place we call Earth. Love from conception, from your mom, your birth. Pops planted the seed in the turf. From there, you must find out what life is worth. Grew up learning your do's and don'ts. Before working on your motor skills, working on your coordination, right? And orientation to what you like. The brand new thing, so gentle the soul we're capturing. In this distance, the alphabets the kids sing. They celebrate when it's time to go outside. As you get older, you learn to let all the troubles in your life just glide away. Stay focused, keep it smooth, keep you cool. Things in life can make it get rude. If you let it, don't let it. 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 If you let it, let it. Let it, what? If you let it, don't let it. Let it. If you let it, what? Don't let it. If you let it, don't let it. Let it. Don't let it. We got what you need, you want it. We know what you want, we got it. We know what you feel, you want it. We got what you want, you can have it. We got what you need, you want it. We know what you want, we got it. We know what you feel, you want it. We got what you want, you can have it. We embark on this journey through your soul. Do you wanna have a good time? We embark on this journey through your soul.
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. It is Monday, 13th April, 08:51 Central European Time. That makes it 2 a.m. 51 Eastern Standard Time, America. What's up? We are back again, and I decided to do something a little different this time around for folks and get back to the roots of, not the only reason, because this is the approach I take on this show has various prongs to it, right? Various pillars, but one of the main pillars, right, is because I actually live in a country that I'm not from. I'm from the United States of America, born and raised. Parents go back both sides to the colonial period, right? So I'm very, very American, very, very American. Although as an adult, some time ago, I chose to live in Denmark, Copenhagen, Denmark. So I'm one of the Americans that can give you real life experience about what it's like to live in a country where everyone has health care and everyone has access to education. Something that has trouble getting resolved in the U.S. model, in the U.S. political conversation. And it's because, primarily because of corruption, a lot of money, donor money, that go towards privatizing everything, So in other words, so instead of healthcare being a service that's provided to everyone, it's a profitable industry where just 40 million Americans can't get it, but pay into the system through taxes. I don't know where that works. I have no idea. I'd rather pay into the system and get access to it with taxes. But in the U.S., it's not like that. Everyone pays through the tax system. But if you don't have enough money left over after you pay taxes, you're not allowed into it because of the deductibles, So I wanted to, go over how that works. But first, I want to illustrate a few things and talk about a few things. 35%, maybe even 40% of the U.S. of the federal budget is paid for. Let me see something by just income taxes, So let me see something here. Now, let me make sure I get this right. Okay. Percentage to revenue, roughly 33 to 35%, about 1/3 of all federal receipts. So the share of the GDP, about 5.9 of gross domestic product. Okay. So that's total contributions, 1.7 trillion. And according to the fiscal data 2024 and projections for 2025-26, here's how much they contribute to the federal budget. And we're talking about United States taxes are the second largest source of federal revenue, trailing only individual income taxes. Okay. So it's high. Federal income tax in the United States of America is high, right? And you could go over the data in a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, the question is always, what do you get for it? Do you even know what you get for it? Do you? And it's interesting because already in this Trump administration, has he rolled back? They pulled back Medicaid and Medicare for all. They rolled that back even before Medicaid and Medicare. People complain about it, but before that, even less people had access to it. So it never got fixed. But of course, they had to be bargaining from conservatives and progressives and centrists about how that would work. And so the progressives had to, basically say, OK, because they needed you need a super majority to craft a real health care plan that works for everybody in the United States of America. Otherwise, the opposing party just won't sign on to it, period. So you won't get any legislation. So that's how you got the healthcare service that they have in the United States. But in Denmark, that's quite different, how they got their healthcare system and educational system. It doesn't have the same history, and it explains a lot, too. It explains a lot. But it's something for Americans to reflect over, because when I go over the history, it tells me a lot of things about social values and social wars, culture wars that seem to be premier in the politic in the U.S. that actually stops it. And in countries like Denmark, they didn't have this culture war going on when they were passing healthcare, this new healthcare legislation that they still have to this day. They didn't have that dynamic. And so I really understand it. I see it for myself that, Americans are really double down into culture wars, also double down into left and right, not just culture war, but it manifests into political parties where folks double down on the same things all the time and fail to get anything. In fact, they regress. You know what I mean? And as an American, I'm not with that shit. And why should I be with that shit? Because I don't live in the U.S. I don't have to be with it. I'm privileged. You see what I mean? I don't have to have the same conversation. I don't have to have the same approach. No, I'm going to live something different, and I'm going to speak something different, and I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to share what those differences are. You know what I mean? I'm going to share, period. And I don't know what you're talking about. You four likes so far. Hey, Friars, are you trying to, what is it again? You trying to get off to a bad start? You trying to be some sort of hater? All right, let me go back. Because you of all people need to learn something. So there you have it. Another 24 hours. Friars is commenting on how many likes I have so far. Like that's what I do on a daily. Friars, your brain is small, dude. Get over it. My mission is bigger than what you think it is. And he's just childlike. For Friars, man, I really love you, and I agree with a lot of the things a lot of the things you agree with, and I've told you that, and we've discussed it over and over. But don't be petty. Don't waste your time with me. That's why I blocked you yesterday. You are an obstruction to good people at this point because you're too politically motivated. You're not willing to listen to other people. So you need to learn that lesson, man. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep timing you out, man, because you're a smart person, but it's an insult to my intelligence. So that's why I'm timing you out. You're not rude, but you're being stupid, okay, at this point. So, but in any case, regardless of how many likes we have, we're going to have this conversation. Apparently, Friars don't like it unless you have likes. You cannot have this conversation without likes. He doesn't want any Americans hearing this conversation and considering the conversation legit if you don't have more than 4 likes. I just opened up the show, Friars. Can you give a brother What? I've been open 11 minutes. I'm just doing the opening. 4 minutes of that was a song. Damn, brother. Can you give it a break? Just stop being so polarized politically. Just stay in your lane. What the fuck? Gallup says, Gala says, what country do I live in? I'm an American citizen. Let me start off the show again. I'm an American citizen, born and raised in Washington, D.C., family on both sides, go back to the colonial period. But I live in Denmark as a grown man. I'm 55 years old, but I moved to Denmark some years ago, And I think when I was 30, that's when I moved to Denmark, right? And so I've learned a lot living in Denmark. And since Friars hasn't learned a lot living in Denmark, he don't have this to teach you. So I'm going to teach it anyway. Yeah, Friars is trolling, but listen, if that's what Friars wants to reduce himself to, troll level, okay, buddy. I thought you were interested in helping Americans get more out of their taxes and get a more fair system. I'm not bullshitting. I'm not on somebody else's page trolling. I do my own thing, and it's called education. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck? Sharing the information people don't normally get. But in any case, back to this thing about the tax system, healthcare in Denmark. Today's show is, can the USA learn from the Danish model? That's the question. And that's where everybody should come into the conversation with, not how many likes you got, not how many people are in the chat as soon as you open the show, but you should think about the main question, especially the more focused you are and the more of an agenda you are, that's really how more important to come in on. So I asked that question, can the USA learn from the Danish model? And my answer, since I've lived in both places for about roughly the same amount of time, a little bit more in the U.S., but here, but in Denmark, just a tiny bit less I've lived. But I've lived basically half of my life in the U.S., half of my life in Denmark. So I can tell you through experience on the ground. And I'm telling you, 100%, the United States of America, American citizens, American politicians, the American government can learn more about how to govern a fair society for all its citizens. They can learn from Denmark. And if you don't take your big ego-fied brain off and your big-headedness about how you do things in the world, you will totally miss that. You see what I mean? This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, 50 more. Yeah, man. Yo, Eric, man, I'm getting a lot of subscribers. I appreciate you keep reminding people because I'm almost up on 10,000 and you just made that a goal like, what, a week ago? 2 weeks, a week and a half ago to get to 10,000. So I appreciate that, man. No question at all. No doubt about it. But to illustrate this, I want to go over, right? First, before we get into some data, I want to go to show you what's going on, what you do have money for in the United States, what the taxpayers who pay income tax, what they do, what this government does seem to think they have loads of money for. And, it's not just a war. They got, I don't know, it's going to be $1 trillion when this war is over. Whenever Trump has decided that he's had enough, right? We don't know, maybe 2 trillion. Who knows? Who knows what it will be? But you definitely have money just to get back what Obama agreed to in 2016, which, by the way, Trump didn't have to rip up and shred in the trash and say was no good because he got even less than that. So he's spending billions of dollars on less than what Obama did. Obama had a conversation. Trump wanted to bomb them into submission, and he literally said it openly. And he even laughed about destroying a civilization, which is disgusting. It's a prime example of what is wrong with the United States. And don't say that that hasn't affected your brain, too. See, a lot of people like to say, oh, it's just Trump. It's just that's one moment in history. No, a collective moment brought Trump into power. So a whole lot of people identified with a whole lot of shit Trump said. So you can't run off from it. The United States has never been a country that is focused on its citizens as equals. It's worked on it, but it's never gotten there. The Danish government has a different history. It had a different emergence. So you could say that they actually got to a point where they said, what is going to be best for all Danes? The United States, because of different ethnic reasons and things like this, they never actually saw everybody as humans. They never actually saw everybody as equals. So that even women, they didn't even see women. See, in the Danish model, they considered women too. They said, what can we do about this inequality of women too? And not just the poor, but also women. And they did something about it. In the United States, they never did that. And you can hear it through Trump and the people that have power right now. They are so misogynistic and they don't even fucking realize it. See, that's the worst part. It's hard to do something about something when you don't even realize you do it, you know, and it is insane. And that is like that with so many issues in the United States. A lot of people don't realize what they're doing, sadly enough, let alone what they're doing with their politic. Sadly, they're not really looking at it and seeing the collective harm they're doing to themselves and their neighbors, to themselves and other Americans, just like them. And I say other Americans because America has no real, quote unquote, one ethnic. You know, it's not just the ones that look like they come from Europe that are considered Americans by law, by history. No, the United States has different looking people through its history that are known to be what today we know America is. These people have fought in wars. They have suffered the whole ride and paid their dues the whole time. Different people that look different. And I think that's really what the gist of it in the United States, why they can't figure out what to do about healthcare, you know, because they just don't want to do right by all Americans. That's all it is, man. You can't be anything else that you're not. Nobody else in America is trying to pretend like they don't have Native Americans, they don't have African Americans, and they don't have women's issues. Nobody else is trying to pretend that they don't have that shit, these issues, you know, historically, except the Republicans and some slimeball Democrats. But hey, let's be specific. It's 99% of the Republicans are still backing up Trump. So let's be very specific. It's not 99% Democrats backing up anything in this government right now. So we gotta give just due where it belongs, you know. But first of all, you can't push Democrats to do the right thing if you don't know the right thing. And if you're not encouraging other Americans to look at other models where these things are accomplished, you can't get Americans to do better. So you got to show them something better, get them to understand how something better actually really exists in reality, not just on paper, not just theoretically. Theoretically doesn't work. You need to point at real life people walking around, wearing clothes, shopping, buying their Gucci bags too, but have health care. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to point at them and say they really exist. You know what I'm saying? All around you. In the West, they really exist. You know what I'm saying? No, it's not going to make you poor to do that. It's actually going to make you get more out of your money to organize healthcare better. But here's what, this is the crazy thing. Here's what Americans are actually okay with right now in opposed to universal healthcare. Just an illustration to show you what they got money for. So here we go. Let's go.
Luke Broadwater, who was just with us, bylined on it, about a company called ArcelorMittal. It's a Luxembourg-based firm. Doesn't sound like it's from Pennsylvania because it isn't. It's the world's second largest steel maker, and they're providing steel for the structure of the Ballroom project. New York Times reports this about them, quote, the White House has secured tens of millions.
So we had to tear down an old part of the White House to build what? A ballroom to have fun in, dance, have cake, and you don't even have the steel to build it. I mean, and you have to beg for the steel from a country that you already insulted, just on the global stage. I mean,
millions of dollars worth of donated foreign steel for Trump's $400 million Ballroom project. That's according to two people familiar with the plans, who spoke anonymously to discuss sensitive and private conversations. Trump spoke about the donated...
Yeah, a bribe room. That's exactly what it is. And that's the center of it. It's corruption. Eric, you hit it on the nose, man. Corruption is the U.S.'s biggest problem because they know through these ways and means of dividing people, that makes it easier for them to skim off the top. You see what I mean? And they're doing it in broad daylight now. They're not even ashamed of it. They're like, we can steal this money and the rest of you can't do a damn thing about it because we own the government. We own the courts. That's literally what they're doing. And there's only two things you could do with that type of dynamic. Sit down and shut the fuck up and learn your place, or totally reject it. Like, eradicate it out of the government. As soon as you get the first opportunity, it's got to be Friday the 13th in France. Like, get rid of these motherfuckers. Like, whoosh, vote them out. Totally. Just gut them out of the system and do it wide sweeping reform, because this is the worst corruption that's ever been seen in a Western country. Like, and Western countries, don't get me wrong, what we define as Western countries is not that old. You see what I mean? Like, I mean, really, these are new models we're talking about. Democratic models that, I mean, you could argue one over the other, but the United States is not that old. And this form of democracy is not that old where you got everyone participating in it. No, countries existed before without democracy. They had kingdoms and things like this. So yeah, other countries are older, but this democratic model that we live in is not really that old. And although I love it, I think it's the fairest model you can have on earth. But and we need to keep building on it. But, it's just we're still far behind in how we handle this when you compare it to other Western countries. He
did steal at a White House event last October for wealthy donors to the Ballroom, saying, quote, a great steel company had approached him seeking to give him a gift to facilitate the project. 2 days after the remarks, the White House issued a lengthy and legalistic proclamation with a provision that would benefit, wait for it, ArcelorMittal. The document made various adjustments to tariffs on trucks, buses, and auto parts. I want to bring in former DHS Chief of Staff during Trump's first term, Miles Taylor. I remember, and it sounds so quaint and so cute, when Donald Trump would scream at the top of his lungs, there was no quid pro quo. Now they put him in writing and release him in White House statements.
Exactly. So the corruption is widespread right now. Here's the main topic here. The main issue is, what is Trump really up to? Now, after they got in the White House, after they got all MAGA'd out in the Congress and in the Senate, they've already been MAGA'd out for years in the Supreme Court. They've always had a right, not always, but this Supreme Court is extremely right wing. It's not progressive. The majority of the judges are right wing that have supported things like stopping abortion, to things like farm aid for farmers, minority farmers that didn't get the aid money that Trump sends out to all the other farmers. What happens with the farm aid money is it's supposed to go out, federal dollars that everybody pays into across the country, goes into a pool, and it gets redistributed to farmers when they need help. And it gets redistributed through the state mechanism. So the states are supposed to help identify who the farmers are that need it. And what certain states have been doing is they've been being prejudiced about which farmers to aid. And when you're talking about real farmers that are registered as farmers, they have made it difficult for minority farmers to actually access that aid, which is not helping the job creation market. It's not helping, prices when you have monopolies and things like that, when you don't have people willing to work and compete, in different sectors of society. So it's bad for everybody, but this is what's been going on. And it's just an example of the right wingedness. It goes on to education, paid education, right wingedness. Healthcare is a prime example of right wingedness in the United States of America. How they fight tooth and nail to not have a system that covers everyone, when you're actually paying right now 5 times more for health care that everyone gets in another Western country. And now you're paying more for it, but less people can get access to it. Less of a percentage of the population gets access to that same health care in the United States that folks get in other Western countries on a larger percentage base, and you pay more for it. So it's really backwards work, you see. So it's sad, but it's backward work. So even though they got elected on cutting health care, after they cut health care, Trump goes out and he informs everyone that guess what? Guess what he informs everybody of? He's informing people that you don't actually, that the federal government now shouldn't pay for any of it. Like none of your tax dollars. And if you think about how much of the federal budget and how much of your tax dollars from everyone's pocket goes into Medicare already, he's telling you, you will continue to pay those taxes, but now the federal government should have nothing to do with it. It's the states that should raise their taxes. So now all he's saying is raise taxes. You're still going to pay the federal income tax that goes to Medicaid. You're still going to pay that, but he's saying you shouldn't get anything for it. That's literally what Trump sprang on the United States of America. And this is the truth about what these billionaires in the United States think. This is actually the truth. And if you are not a billionaire, you're ignorant for supporting this. No one should be proud to support this if you're not a billionaire, because that means you're getting robbed. That's what that means. And no one should celebrate getting robbed. And of course, I know a lot of the Trump supporters, they do celebrate getting robbed. They've been tricked into celebrating getting robbed, but you shouldn't be proud of it. But, don't worry about the trolls, because trolls aren't really American citizens. So they're just, that's disinformation. That's something else. That's Russians and things like that. But now let's continue. Here we go.
Democrats, a big gift for the midterms, as if escalating.
Yeah, it's a big gift to the midterms. If Americans and if legacy media wants to do comprehensive stories about and comparative data on healthcare from the United States versus healthcare from other Western nations, it's a big gift if Americans are going to be informed about what they can do better. If people doing like podcasters like myself, if legacy media, also them, if media in general is not going to do comparative data to show you what other countries are doing that is better, then this is not a gift to the Democrats. Because who cares if the Democrats win if the people aren't informed about what to tell the Democrats to do? You can't do better if you're not informed. It just doesn't work that way. You see what I mean? And you can blame anybody you want, but if the population is not informed, you are the first to blame the population. Period. That's what it is. It's serious. You can do your politicians will not do any better than the population thinketh and knoweth. You see what I mean? They are literally a reflection of what you think and what you know. And if you don't know much about a topic, that's what you're going to get from your politicians. They might try to help you in some ways, but they ain't going to do it like you know better. You know what I'm saying? They're going to ride the line. Why? Because everyone is lobbying them to just hold the line. And that's across all political parties. All. In the United States of America, it takes money. And there's always going to be someone looking to bribe somebody. Not only just bribe them because of money. Maybe they can kick someone out of the country and get you to change your politic. Maybe they can threaten your kids. Maybe they can do something else to get you to go along with it. Maybe they can strong arm your policy. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of factors to corruption. You shouldn't think that it's one pronged, that it's just so easy that there's one issue, one problem. And, in lobbyists, for example, there's just not one organization that's the problem. No. Stop teaching people that it's just AIPAC. It is not just AIPAC. You got many other problems in the politics, buying off politicians in the United States of America by Americans, full-blooded Americans that don't give a shit about anybody else. You know what I'm saying? But want that money out of the taxpayers' pockets. And these rich folks don't want to pay their fair share in taxes. That's what's going on in the United States of America. And we need to start saying it. Yes, fuck AIPAC. But what's the point in saying fuck AIPAC if you're okay with the rest, the bigger, the more corrupt entities? That means you really don't mean fuck AIPAC if you're not concerned about the bigger corruption going on. I'm serious. In the United States. Don't be blind.
Did President Trump just hand Democrats a big gift for the midterms? As if escalating frustration over spiking gas prices and a souring economy aren't enough, here he is making clear what are not on his list of priorities.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. It's not possible for us to take care.
And who are you fighting the wars for? See, they're fighting the wars for the billionaires. And he's saying it. They just can't do both. They can't fight wars for billionaires and do daycare. This is literally what's coming out of this ape's mouth right now. And you have to call it what it is. It's Trump is a moron, but he really means what he's saying. When he says this is a reflection of the billionaire consensus in the United States of America. This is why a person like Elon Musk migrates to the United States with all his money. This is why. All right, check 1 2. All right, can y'all hear me now? I'm back. Yeah, let me know if you can hear me in the chat now. Sorry about that. That was the power. I don't know why that happened, but yeah. But in any case, back to what we were discussing. And thanks everybody for coming out and taking the topic serious. You know, I know people got different times of day that they're on the net. By the way, if you need a break from the internet, go ahead and take a break. It's okay. You know, I do that from time to time. I'm kind of used to what's going on here? Okay, that's my other one. I got my mobile on too. I take a break just so I don't get so catty all the time. And I notice if I'm on the internet a little bit too much for my own, for myself, I can get a little, you know what I'm saying? So I try to take breaks. But here, in any case, back to what we were talking about. We're talking about Trump and how the real face of the right wing in the United States has really showed its honest self now. Right. It's really, you know, it could be confusing when you're following it. But in reality, people should know. If you're my age, I'm 55. So I've seen a lot of changes in the United States of America over time growing up. So and also my parents were heavily involved in politics, too. So I've seen how the conversation has gone. You've heard it. It's really fully documented. Yeah, we have a pretty much government style that would be considered right wing, right? It would be considered right wing if you compare it to other Western nations. You know, it would be, in fact, you know, the right wings of other nations sometimes celebrate the U.S.'s right wingness, but now it's just gone out of control. And it's time we have a conversation about it because, look, there's nothing to be proud about it. Americans need to know. One thing for sure that Americans need to know is they need to know that even the right wings in Europe want their people to have health care. And they do something about it. It's not just for fake. It's not just fraud. OK, right wing people generally, you know, talk about a lot of similar things, immigration. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be a centrist issue, too. Centrists talk about immigration also. Immigration shouldn't be a topic that there is any party that doesn't discuss. The difference should be how you approach it. But in any case, right wing tends to want to limit it, you know, without any comprehensive understanding of how immigration connects with the economy, connects with business, the drivers, the things that pay for the social benefits. You see what I'm saying? And things like that. So the conversation tends to be the same and similar across the right wing. But at least they agree that their own citizens should have health care. And this is what makes the United States very different. At least they in Europe and in most of the West, right, all of the West believe that their own citizens should have access to whatever education they qualify for, whatever test they can take. They should be able to get that. This is what makes the United States very, very different. Extremely different. Not just a little different, extremely different, because when you're paying into a system that collects taxes, that's based on taxes, the United States government is paid for by the taxpayers exclusively. You see what I mean? When you're paying for military exclusively by taxpayers, you're supposed to get a benefit for it, right? Yeah. Okay. So What about the rest of the things you pay taxes into, Medicare? And they don't manage it in a way to where it's benefiting people, the multitude of people. They manage it so it's benefiting the private sector, and that's it. And that's the problem. You don't handle the military when it comes to fighting your wars. It's not a private sector issue, even though it's benefiting the billionaires more than anyone else. You want everyone else to chime in on it and pay cough up their pennies towards the military budget, right? And you hear Trump admit it. Listen to this. This is Trump admitting it.
Democrats a big gift for the midterms, as if escalating frustration over spiking gas prices and a souring economy aren't enough. Here he is making clear what are not on his list of priorities.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare.
They're fighting wars. That's the reason. Daycare is not going to happen, because they're fighting wars. And somebody has to pay for the wars. And you know who has to pay for the wars? You American taxpayers have to pay for the wars. But the American taxpayer doesn't have to chip in for everyone else with health care. Nope. Especially the wealthy. So the wealthy aren't really being taxed in the United States like that. They're getting around it. Corporations aren't, there's issue with corporations being taxed and how you audit corporations, but I'm going to show you some information. Don't think, it's just getting open. It's going to take me some time because I like to go through some things that matter. I don't like to give people the quick answer that they get on CNN or Fox, or the quick answer that their politicians give them. I'm not here to do that game. I'm here to actually connect some dots for people. You see what I mean? And so I'm going to do it differently, right? We're going to, after we listen to Trump's bullshit, we're going to listen to the Danish tax Bureau explain how the tax system works in Denmark, and it affects people that want to move here. It affects businesses. It affects everybody and how they decide what to do. Now, keep in mind, industry is thriving in Denmark, right? And Denmark's a capitalistic country, right? And yeah, Denmark's a capitalistic country, right? And but how taxes play into social benefits is different. But the economic driver is free, open trade, capitalism, work, taxing people, industry. That's what it is. Same type of system as in the U.S. It's just that this U.S.'s system has always historically leaned extremely right wing. It's never even gotten to the middle, because I would say middle politics is what Denmark a lot of European countries have when it comes to healthcare and when it comes to housing, when it comes to education. That's politics, that extends from the middle and out across, pretty much everyone agrees with it. So I call that middle politics in Europe. In the United States, it's not middle politics. It is pretty much left to the left. It's pretty much left only to Democrats, and some independents to even deal with and talk about, and they get the blame when they don't get it accomplished. But you need to know how it happened in Europe. You had majority of congressional members in Europe, parliamentary members, voting for it. That's how they got it. They didn't get it through having 50% this party and 50% that. No, you have to have a super majority to overhaul the system in the United States of America. That means you need 70% of the congressional members and the senatorial members must agree to overhaul the system. Then you can get it done. That's not a problem. Then you can get it done. And that's exactly how it happened in other countries. It was overwhelming, just like what happened in Hungary. The election yesterday, to get that asshole out of power that had been there for 16 years, they needed a supermajority. The difference is that even the right wing in Hungary agrees about healthcare and education. You see what I mean? So there's a difference there in how the Americans are dealing with this. And Americans need to know this. And why do Americans need to know this? So they can do something different when they vote. So they can speak differently when they talk to their politicians. So they can come with more ammunition, regardless of which politician you're dealing with. You should be empowered to come with more ammunition. If you're a Republican, stay Republican. I don't want to change you. but make it make sense for your taxes. If you're a Republican, just make it make sense. Make it make normal right wing sense, since you want to be in the right wing. Make it make Western country right wing sense if you want to do that. Because right now you're not doing that with your right winginess in the U.S. If you want to be left wing, go right ahead, be left wing, man. I don't care what that's about. But at least have the nerve to care for your own citizens. At least have some goddamn at least whatever you're doing, do it for American citizens, so every American citizen benefits. I mean, that's what I don't get. Healthcare and education are the minimal. The minimal. That should mean, regardless of everything else, everyone totally agrees everyone needs to have access to these things. Period. It only makes everyone stronger. Period. Across the board. But yet, in the United States, they're the one isolated Western country that thinks different about it.
It's impossible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things. They can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care.
See, they can do it on a state basis. We can't do it on a federal basis. Well, everyone else in the West does it on a federal basis. So what's he talking about? He's just trying to confuse people. Is he talking about lowering federal taxes? Nope. He's talking about giving you less for the average American citizen. So he's saying you're going to pay. And right now, why is he talking about giving people less? The American citizens from all backgrounds, all economic brackets, they already pay into Medicaid all through the tax system, but just can't afford it. And he's talking about providing less. He's talking about providing less. You know what I mean? Exactly. And he's saying you do it on the state level. What are you talking about, man? The Americans this is the proof right here. He is literally trying to say you need to be taxed more in order to provide it. It doesn't matter if listen to what he says after that. It doesn't matter if you say state or federal. Taxing more should not be the problem, because other countries are getting the shit done for less. You see, so what is he talking about? The word tax more for state or federal shouldn't even come into play. You see what I mean? Americans are already taxed. The average American, the people that ain't taxed are the billionaires. You see what I'm saying? So let's keep it going.
Military protection. We have to guard the country.
So he wants federal taxes to be for only government employees and military protection. That's it.
These individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. We have to guard the country. But all these little things, all these little...
So that shows you Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they want military contracts. That's what that means. The billionaires want to get all the money through military. This is what they want. And guess what they're going to do with that military? Do you think the rest of the world is safe with Peter Thiel and Elon Musk having more access to the military? Do you think that's going to help right now? You think that's what the United States needs? Yo, what are you going to do different? Already with less, look at what Donald Trump has tried to do. He's literally tried to attack Western allies, like straight up. So what does he need more money for the military for when it's not even being managed correctly? Can you even find out where the money is going in the U.S.? The U.S. military already gets more money than any other military on earth, and historically always has. It's still dwarfing China in spending. Where's the money going? Whose money is going into private, is going into these contracts? That's where it's going to. So you're going to use a $3 billion missile, $3 million missile on a drone that costs $30,000. Who's getting paid to make those missiles? You see what I'm saying? And it's not just the missiles. I'm saying all of it. They're going to use it on the American people. That's pretty much what they're going to start off using it for. Just like they use this facial recognition shit on, they use it on American people, surveilling American people first. You see, so while you can't even get health care, while you can't even get a fair shake in education, they're gonna spy on you. basically. But let's hear a little bit more and then get to the Danish tax system and hear how the Department of Taxes handles it.
That have taken place. You have to let states take care of them.
Those remarks came at a White House event yesterday that was closed to the press, but video of it was briefly posted to the White House YouTube channel before it was taken down. Too late, though. It was already downloaded by a journalist for Business Insider who posted it to X. Joining us now, Maya Rupert, who served as senior advisor for the Elizabeth Warren campaign and former campaign manager for Julian Castro. Okay, Maya, so midterms are approaching. I don't know if you knew that. Will we be seeing Trump calling daycare, Medicare, Medicaid a scam in more than a few political ads?
It's got to be absolutely everywhere. I mean, I think someone should call and make sure that the president hasn't given Democrats an in-kind donation that would need to be reported. It's going to be that will be in everyone's ad. It will be on everyone's lips, because what he just did was to give away the whole store. When Donald Trump was running, he ran on affordability, he ran on lowering costs, and he ran on an end to forever wars. Now he's saying the federal government can't do anything to make anyone's lives better. All it can do is enter into wars with no end in sight, no benchmarks to tell people when the war is actually going to end. That's what he's concerned about. And he called daycare, healthcare, the things that our families are struggling with, the things that are bankrupt.
He called daycare healthcare. So what you're getting with that Trump speech is a pure look at what these greedy billionaires in the United States, who already don't pay taxes pretty much through their ways of getting around it, the loopholes. You're really seeing what their real thoughts are. See, you should thank Trump, because every once in a while he slips and tells you the truth, what they really have in mind. And they all have this in mind. I mean, the ones in his cabinet, they all have this in mind. They're getting rich from American tax dollars, and that's how they want to keep it. They see you as being nothing. Essentially, they see the taxpayer as being nothing. That's very different in other Western countries. In fact, that's extremely different. In other Western countries, it's the people that make the country, right? It's the overall welfare of the whole body that speaks for who the country is, the country's values. In the United States, it's not that. It's pretty much 1% that speaks to those values. And you could see it right now. You're living it out right now. That's the experience of the 1% that people in the United States are living out. So they don't see you as a part of it. You're just a cash cow. Exactly. You're just a cash cow for them. Like, hey, yo, Michael. Exactly, man. Cherish, I hear you. Yeah, sad face, but it's reality. And the more Americans hear this, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're independent, somebody's got to talk to everybody like I'm doing. The only thing I don't talk to is idiots too long. If you want to play games, I will time you out or block you, because I don't have time for that, because there's plenty of right wing people that consider that. Look, Eric Klein, he's in the chat. He's worked with right wingers. You know what I'm saying? I have family that are right wingers too. What the hell? I'm like ashamed of. I'm like, damn, why? How did you get so confused about what's going on? And like, stop blaming people across the aisle like you and start pointing up. They're robbing you, and but Americans are starting to understand that. And the more people that speak towards that class issue, the more people are going to get it. And no, we don't just need to hear people like Bernie Sanders talking about it. We all need to talk about it if it's something that concerns us. I don't need Bernie Sanders necessarily, because I already am a part of that by living in Denmark, something even stronger than what he's asking for. You see what I mean? It's so funny, but it's true. Something like, let me see here. What did they say? They say, I believe 40. I'm going to bring up some data about Denmark, and then you will see exactly how tax dollars are spent. All right. And since your government is paid for 100% by tax revenue, you should be concerned about how the money is spent, because it's actually coming out of your pocket, and it reflects how well you're doing in the society yourself, right? What you get for your taxes, how much of your taxes is going to something else versus how much of your taxes is going to improve the neighborhoods where you live in and people like you, to provide security nets. When you have family members that can't afford daycare, that means you have another child that possibly is not going to get everything they need to grow up to be a responsible adult. That's what that means, and so that's not a funny issue. It should be taken serious, and it's taken serious by pretty much everybody else in other Western countries. In the United States, we just laugh at the idea, which kind of shows you slavery never left. Slavery just got bigger. It just now includes huge, swaths of white folk too. That want to be slaves, you know what I'm saying? That have decided that they will vote for people that want to enslave them. Elon Musk, Trump wants to enslave their ass, you know what I'm saying? And they just don't get it. They just don't get it because they might happen to share the same look. They don't think a person that has the same look as them will enslave their ass, enslave them out, and pimp them out, and whoosh, and turn their life into sharecroppers where every time they take home a check, it can barely pay for everything they need. If that, where they just keep sinking in debt and sink. That's called sharecropping. Don't you know that? That's modern day sharecropping. That's what the sharecropper was complaining about. It's fucking crazy, man.
People. He called them little things, and he called them a scam. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is what every Democrat should be running on, and is what every Republican.
Did you hear what she said? This is what they think of you. Look.
Bankrupting people. He called them little things, and he called them a scam.
Little things. And basically, this is how he looks at American people, as little people. You're all little people to this party. Like, straight up, they have classism in mind 100%. And it includes MAGA white Americans also. It includes you. See, you're down here on the bottom. They up there on the top. That's how classism works. No matter what you think about the coloreds to the left and the right of you, or the other people, the gays, you're still down there on the bottom with them. Okay? That's how classism works. Okay?
And that, as far as I'm concerned, is what every Democrat should be running on, and is what every Republican is going to need to run from.
Right. Every Republican should run from it. That's if we hold them to the fire. That's if we hold American citizens to the fire. That's if we want to talk and share and spread the information in a calm, cool, collected manner to all Americans, instead of just saying, I'm fighting for Democrats, or I'm fighting for Republicans, or I'm fighting the independent fight. No, the only fight any American should be fighting right now is the fight for American citizens, all American citizens. Because if you're not fighting for all American citizens, and you don't see all American citizens as worthy to have health care, in the wealthiest country on earth, when every other Western country that collects taxes is providing that, if you don't think every American should have access to any education that they want if they pass the entry exam, you're not fighting anything for anybody in your country. You're just fighting for classism. And that's different. That's different. There's been a lot of people that fight for classism, but you could just admit it. Okay, that's what you are, a classist. You see what I'm saying? So let's continue now. Let's get deeper. Now we're going to hear a little bit from the Danish tax authority and how Denmark views taxes, right? How Denmark actually does taxes, so that you really have an idea of how it's done. And you could hear it from the tax authority's own mouth. You don't have to trust me. Who am I? Look at how I look. Look at my nose. I must be kind of funny American, right? I must not be worthwhile trusting, right? Okay, well, let's look at someone who looks different, has a different gender, has a different physical appearance, right? Lighter appearance, more straighter hair, talks a little different. Maybe you will trust them. But given given how powerful classism is, it's possible that won't happen. So let's see it. And let's see how that sounds. And I encourage people to listen to some of the details. You might not be able to hear all of it, but I'm going to download it for you. I'm going to put it in the chat. So you can't say that someone like myself here did not provide you with this information, because you have, and you are being provided with it. And then when you don't look it up, it's only your fault. It's not my fault. You see, then I'm absolved of my duties for the moment, because of course I'm going to do it again. You know what I'm saying? As long as they're dumbasses in the U.S. doing this shit, I'm going to do it again. So at least you get your facts right. You can be against it, but how you going to be against something that you don't even get your facts right on? Get your facts right first about it. Then you can disagree with it, but it will only make you a classist. So here we go. Let's peep what they're saying here.
To Denmark, because
in Denmark. Why Danes, most of them, happily pay their taxes. Then let's get down to what you're actually here for today, knowing what to do and what to be aware of when you're an international in Denmark. So imagine that I am completely new to Denmark. I just moved to Denmark. What do I need to know in terms of taxes? What do I need to be aware of?
first of all, you need to know what your kind of obligation you have according to the Danish tax. And the first one you'll have to do will be contact the Danish tax agency so we can find out how your tax liability will be to Denmark. Because maybe you also have a living address in another country, or if you only will be here for a short time for working, studying. So contact us so we can find out if you will be full tax liable or limit tax liable to Denmark. That will be the first one. And also we need to know, will you have residence in Denmark? Do you rent an apartment? Such kind of things. That will also depend on what kind of tax liability.
No, Jethro Tull. Yeah, they're going to go through some income tax, and yeah, it is largely income tax though in Denmark. But they're going to go through just tax in general. There is corporate tax here too. So
see, you'll have to Denmark.
Okay. So, if the situation is the fact that I moved to Denmark because I either get a job or I'm
and this is important because a lot of people ask me, what if I move to Denmark, how would it be? And it's important to know, and this is for everybody. It's also for me too. I had to come. I think when you come from the US and in many countries, if you're outside of the EU, because Denmark is an EU country, there is a security guarantee you got to give. So a bank has to be willing to give you something like 50,000 krona or 70,000 krona in advance, so that in case you get in trouble, you're not a liability to the taxpayer. That's truthful. That's how it works. But listen, think about all that money that could be generated. Think about that. You know what I'm saying? That's money that could go back into the tax system. But what will it be spent on is the question. Aha. And what does Denmark spend that money on? Aha. See, there's a difference. They're not so prone to want to just spend it on wars like Trump is trying to do. What they would do is say, okay, how does it improve the social sector? You see, how does it improve healthcare? How does it improve education? Can we provide more teachers in school? Can we expand elder care? Can we, make the highways better or the public transportation system better? Can we give people more time off, mothers, when they have a child? Can we, what can we do for the small business sector? Can we offer them some tax breaks? What can we do with that money? You see?
Gonna study for a while. And I only live in Denmark, then what is my status then?
If you come to Denmark for a longer time and you rent an apartment, you get a Danish address, then you'll be full tax liable.
Okay.
And if you only will be here, for example, for a month and you don't have any address, you'll be limit tax liable. The difference between the full and limit tax liable is that when you're full tax liable, then you are like everybody else in Denmark. If you are limit tax liable, you'll only be taxed of the income that you have here in Denmark, and that will only be for the period that you are in Denmark. If you're full tax liable, then you'll have to tell us what you have in your suitcase when you come from another country. Mm-hmm. We need to know, do you have an apartment?
So you see that? So I know all of the old tricks that people ask when they have certain talking points. So to offset certain talking points, certain questions, Like, how many people live in Denmark? Hey, anybody can Google that. That's 6 million. But see, usually people ask that because there's something else they want to say. They want to say the United States is too big to manage its money better, to manage taxpayer dollars better. That's really what they're trying to say. But it's not true. But this question, don't miss this question that is being asked here, because this applies to everybody and should.
If you're full tax liable, then you'll have to tell us what you have in your suitcase when you come from another country. We need to know, do you have an apartment? Do you have a house? Do you have stocks? Do you have life insurance, pensions, saving account in other countries? All that kind of stuff you'll have to report to the Danish tax agency. And that is because when you are full tax liable to Denmark, your global income will be taxed in Denmark.
Do you see that? Your global income will be taxed in Denmark. So, okay, that wasn't a talking point, Steve. Okay, well, everybody, you can Google that. Denmark has 6 point something million people, you know. Anyway, let's talk about taxes and how it works in Denmark. Okay, listen. I thought your question was, you know, connected to this. So in any case, since it's not, let's continue. Sorry about that, Steve, but let's stay focused, man. That was an important note there. You see, your global tax is taxed in Denmark. Do you understand what that means? That means if you got property everywhere else and money everywhere else, and you come to live in Denmark, you're going to have to let them know what you have. Because in Denmark, everyone has certain rights, and right to health care that you support. You don't just have a right to it. You also support it through taxes. You see what I'm saying? So that means if you got money in property and things like that in other places in the world, you're going to contribute to the society. That's what that means. You're going to contribute to the society just like everybody else. Like, you're not better than someone else just because you have more money. You see? No, that's not socialism, because you don't pay the same amount. It's not a thing. So that's so funny. When you have a job in Denmark, you don't get paid the same wage. You get paid based on your experience. That's not socialism. You see? Right. So you should look up what socialism means. Denmark is again, for the people that never bothered to listen, to check it out or research it, Denmark is a capitalistic country. How it manages health care from the top is that everyone is paid by the taxpayers, right? And it's managed by the state in cooperation with private services. So they have companies that provide services, private companies that provide and compete for contracts to the state, but the state makes sure that it's done fairly. That's how it works. So, that's how it works. That's exactly how it works. So, let's go back and just hear that again. That's not socialism. That's a huge judgment. Anyone can look up, is Denmark a capitalistic society or state, country, or not? And everywhere that you get the answer will be no, if it's a real resource. So there's no socialistic countries in the EU. There's no socialistic countries in NATO. Just for people that never heard that before, I can tell you, because I've heard those questions asked many times. So, yeah, exactly. I get trolls nonstop. So that's why I'm replying that way. But let's get the basics out of the way, just to relieve everyone of the side, the going in the other directions from not actually asking a question about what she said. You know, we gotta stay here focused so we can come further. You know, there's no NATO country that's a socialistic country. If you thought that, you thought wrong, or you've been informed incorrectly. That's all. So let's get to the next part. Having universal health care doesn't mean you're a socialistic country. Having universal education doesn't mean that. And having a global tax doesn't mean that either. That's not what socialism means. So it just means you are actually a part of the society and you're contributing what you can. Yeah, based on what you have. Yeah. Why should you contribute more of or a higher percentage of what you have if you have less? Why should you contribute less than someone else, less percentage of what you have than someone else that has less when you have more? That's all.
Another country. We need to know, do you have an apartment? Do you have a house? Do you have stocks? Do you have life insurance, pensions?
And keep this in mind, y'all. Even the United States of America wants to know this about all its American citizens living abroad. Did you know that? I know this because I'm an American citizen that lives abroad. So don't look at it like this is, again, you wouldn't call the United States socialist because they want to know what stocks I have. But they do want me to report it. They want me to report that even though I live in Denmark and I pay taxes here, they want me to share all of my tax information when it comes to even stocks, when it comes to income tax, when it comes to stocks, when it comes to property, when it comes to all of that. They want me to share it with them. And if I don't, it's a violation of the law. That has nothing to do with socialism. Just for people to get a chance to hear that. I'm sure people have never heard it before, so that's why I'm actually doing these small things. And I've had some talks with some others that don't want me to do these talks where we fill in the blanks, but I'm willing to do it for Americans because I'm an American citizen that lives abroad. And I know that no matter if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican or you're independent, you're likely not hearing this conversation right now. So that's all. So spread it, share it to others that you think want to be informed about the facts. That will probably help people know which politicians to support and which questions to ask their politicians too. That's all.
Saving account in other countries. Do you have a house? Do you have stocks? Do you have life insurance, pensions, saving account in other countries? All that kind of stuff you'll have to report to the Danish tax agency. And that is because when you are full tax liable to Denmark, your global income will be taxed in Denmark.
Okay.
But we have some double taxations agreement to avoid about that you are paying full tax in two countries. So you need to report what kind.
So she's going to explain what I just explained. Because you're reporting doesn't mean you're paying. That once they assess what you have and what your activity is, then they know if you what you need to pay. So for me, and most people like myself, right? Average people, average citizens. Guess what? Some people have to be average citizens. Do you know average citizens are the majority of any country that you live in? Right. The average taxpayer is the majority, right? Now, just because they need to know what you own, she just said they have something against a double tax. So they're not going to double tax you. The United States is not double taxing me just because it wants to know how much I earn, wants to know what property I own outside of the U.S., wants to know what stocks I own outside of the U.S. That's not a tax. That's just informing them. And Denmark has the same thing. Just because they want to know what you have and you report what you have doesn't mean they tax you on it. It's individual. It's based on the totality of what you have. Okay, so
kind of tax, or what kinds of stuff you have in other countries. Also, if you have a spouse in another country, and then we will find out how you'll be taxed here in Denmark.
Okay. Now maybe that's a very practical question, but now you say when you say you need to contact us. So what do you do? Do you call the tax authorities, or what is the first thing that you do when you arrive in Denmark?
The first step will be to give us a call, and you can find the contact information in our English.
Somebody said, Emotion said, serious question. Are there people who are well off, or or is it the extra income taken but in taxes? I don't understand that question, but there's a lot of well off people in Denmark. And there's a lot of companies in Denmark. All the American companies are in Denmark. And that's a good question to ask in corporations, because Denmark is a hub. It's a trading hub, so it has extensive network across Europe and across the world. It's a shipping, Maersk Shipping is a Danish company, you see. So, and if you notice, that's the global leader in shipping. Its only competitor is a Chinese company. You see what I'm saying? So, but please try to rephrase that question so I understand it a little more, and then I can answer it better for you. Yeah. Thanks for the question too.
And another probably more practical question also. In order to, if you then realize by calling that you have to pay taxes in Denmark, then I know that there are some steps that you need to take.
Yes. Then you give us a call and you tell us that you have an income from Denmark and income from other countries maybe also. Then we'll make you a tax card.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a tax card and you have a job and you get salary from the job, then you are paying 55% in tax. So it would be better for you to have a tax card. And then...
You hear that? So if you don't have a tax card, then you're paying... It's kind of like, I believe what they mean is that's a B card in Denmark. You have A tax and B tax. And B tax is the one where, how can I say this? It's extra money that you don't think is normal in your economy, or, you know, it gets taxed differently, right? It's not part of your normal wages, right? So if it's your normal wage, then it would be lower than that. The average person in Denmark pays about 40% tax. You know, some people pay 39%. It depends on how much you make, but the average person is around 40. Maybe if you make a little more than average, then it might go up to 45. 55. If you're paying 55% tax of your normal income tax, you're actually living pretty well in Denmark. You're not a poor person. You see what I mean? And what I mean by that is your lifestyle is not of a poor person. Like, if you're paying 55% tax, you're owning some, you're doing pretty well. I could just say that. You have to be, yeah. But then again, when everyone has access to education, people generally can reach those heights, but let's go on.
We will find out how much you will have in deduction per month and what the withholding rate you will have. And the withholding rate will be different from municipality to municipality. So you can have a colleague who have a lower or higher withholding rate than you. It depends on which municipality that you are living in. And each year, in the 5th of September, where you are living will depends.
I'm going to get to some of the questions in a second. Hold on. I just want to see something here.
So let's just for a bit set aside the withholding rate and the deductions. Now you mentioned some words that we'll get back to. I have some more questions. Now back to the tax card. You say that if you don't have a tax card, you pay 55% tax, and that's a lot of tax even for a Dane. So obviously you would like to avoid paying that much taxes. And I guess the reason being for paying that much?
That is because you don't have a tax card, and make sure of that you are paying the correct amount in tax, because if you have a very high salary, you will also have to pay top bracket tax. So if you earn more than 500 and approximately 77,000 per year, you'll have to pay top bracket tax.
Okay.
So that's just under $1 million right there. That's under $1 million. Just under $1 million. So just under $1 million and up, that's where that 55 starts at. You see what I'm saying? Under that, it's pretty progressive. Under that, you're not paying that top scat fee. You see, percentage. But I'm going to get some other details, but I just wanted you to hear it from a Danish person real quick.
That is because you don't have a tax card, and make sure of that you are paying the correct amount in tax, because if you have a very high salary, you will also have to pay top bracket tax. So if you earn more than 500 and approximately 77,000 per year, you'll have to pay top bracket tax.
So the US dollar it's 6 point something krona to $1. So you can see in there when she's talking about 570,000 Danish crowns, right? You can see how that factors in. So 1 million would be 600,000 something Danish crowns. You see how that works? So yeah.
Okay.
That means you'll have to pay extra 15% in tax. So be sure of that you are paying enough in tax. The rules are saying you must pay 55% tax. And also 8% in labor market contribution.
Oh.
Because when you are working in Denmark and you have a salary, you are paying labor market contribution, and that is also a tax. You're not paying the labor market contribution if you have benefits or if you get SU or something like that, then you are not paying the 8% labor market contribution.
Okay.
When we make the tax card, then we will make from the salary you have, we will calculate for the year, and then we will take your allowance and divide it for the months that will be in the year. So, for example, if you arrive.
So your taxes, everyone's taxes, right? Just average people that have income tax. All of that is prepared by the Danish government. It's digitally prepared. You have access to it. It's called a preliminary tax assessment for each year. As a matter of fact, I got to go in and look at mine to make sure mine is okay right now and then approve it, right? It's waiting for your approval, and it waits for a couple of months, maybe a month or so for your approval, or longer, depends on what's going on with it, right? Now, if you don't go in and look at the details to correct it, to make sure that it's correct, or if you have some missing information that can bring your taxes down or give you, something like that, that they don't know about, you have an opportunity to enter it in. That changes your deductions. It might increase your deductions. Maybe they taxed you too much, but you have an opportunity to look at and then finalize it. And then you have the final one. So they do the preliminary one for you. You get to contribute to that preliminary assessment, and then you get to finalize it. So that's part of the government's job. So you're paying for it. You pay for someone to assess your taxes. And the reason why it's done this way is so that everybody is following the same rules. You see what I mean? It's not a private company. You know how many people go to jail just because they hired someone to do their taxes in the U.S. and they didn't do their taxes right? A company that goes bankrupt, and before they know it, all of a sudden the federal government is coming after the individual. It's a lot of people, yo. It's a lot of people. So, yeah. I'm just, letting you know kind of how that works. So taxes also pay for the government to assess everybody's taxes, not just mine, but everybody's, the wealthy also.
The 1st of July, then you will be tax liable for 6 months, and then we will divide your allowance for 6 months. So you have exactly the same amount each month in allowance.
Okay.
So you can be sure of this amount I have tax-free every month.
Okay.
And that is because we have 3 types of tax card in Denmark.
You hear this? This is a key thing, because she's about to go into the deductions. So you pay these taxes, but don't forget, then you have deductions. So you're not taxed on all your income. There's nobody that's taxed on all their income in Denmark. So when they say 40%, 39% tax, or they say 55% tax, nobody's getting taxed on all their income. So you have to understand how that works. Just like in the U.S., you have deductions. Denmark has deductions too.
We have something called no tax card, no tax exemption card. Frikort is the Danish word. That is only young people who have it. And that is if you earn less than 46,000 per year, then you are below the limit for.
So 46,000 Danish crowns is you don't get taxed on if you're a minor. That's for students and people like that, people that aren't working, this kind of thing. So if you're not working at all, you don't get taxed until you make above that, but you still get your benefits already. You see what I mean? So that's not affecting things like housing, your housing rights. Of course, it will, because maybe you don't want to live in this community further out from the center. You want to live downtown where it costs more money. So, but if you don't have a job, you're not going to be living downtown where it costs more money in Denmark. You're going to be living a little further out in the suburbs, but you'll still have a functioning transport system, buses, trains. You're still going to have your access to your doctor, to the hospital. You're still going to have access to education, all of those things. You see what I'm saying? So let's hear some more.
The personal allowance, and then you'll have a no tax card. Then we have the primary tax card, and that is the most of the people in Denmark who have the primary tax card, where you have your monthly deduction. And then we have the secondary tax card. There you only have the withholding rate, no tax-free amount.
So that's people like me. So I have my primary tax card, the A card, and I have the B card. All other employers, all of the extra money. Like, for example, YouTube money goes to B card. That's not my typical employer. That's not my 9 to 5. 9 to 5 employment goes in the A card system, and that's handled. But when you get your preliminary tax assessment that's presented to you by the Danish government, that's what I have to do now. I just go in there and I add the B card money, the earnings that I made to the B card. So how would that affect a person like me? Maybe I'm paying too much in taxes already, right? And so maybe they're about to give me some money back. But when they find out about the B card money, that might reduce the amount of tax money I get back because I earned something on the side. You see what I mean? But even if I didn't earn anything on the side, I'm still getting all these other rights and I'm getting something like, in my tax bracket, I get something like, I think typically for me, since I pay like 40% tax, maybe 41%, I get something like, what is it? Something like every month, something like I think, is it $2,000 that's not taxed of my earnings that's not taxed? You got to think about that, you know? And so this is where the United States legacy media, Fox News, CNN, all of them, where the politicians, they spook American citizens because they want to describe countries like Denmark like they're socialist countries. No, they're progressive tax countries. That's different. They're capitalist progressive tax. You see what I'm saying? That's a way different than being socialist, right? And you know, because you're taxed on what you earn, and it's not. It has deductibles in it, and you get paid based on your experience. You know, someone who has no experience in a field doesn't get paid more money than someone who has more experience. That's just not how it works. Yeah, you hear that all the time. Socialist country, socialist country. No, they've been lying. They've just been flat out lying to American people about this. And since the United States wanted to attack Denmark, American citizens need to know what type of countries Trump is deciding to tax. To attack. He's trying to attack countries with progressive tax systems. What the fuck? These countries that organize taxes better than the United States. Countries that are countries where people are happier with their government. He's trying to attack those countries. What is that? Aren't you supposed to attack countries where people aren't happy with their government? No, but that's not what Trump is doing. That had nothing to do with Greenland. He just wanted what was in the ground, which shows you what their motivations really are in the U.S. The government of the U.S. doesn't just want what's in the ground in other countries. They also don't want to share what's in the ground in the U.S. They just want all that privatized too. All the oil, Norway actually has a social fund that pays for all the benefits through the oil that Norway has. So they sell the oil, and the taxes from selling the oil in Norway, it pays for everybody's benefits. Education, childcare, I believe you should ask a Norwegian how it exactly works. But basically, yeah, they have a sovereign fund like that from their oil. So the private corporations are not the only ones benefiting themselves. They're also benefiting the society through taxes, So I'm going to continue. Let's see. Thank you for that, Steve. Yeah.
Per month. And that is, if you have more than one employer, then you can go to employer number 2 and say, I have this secondary tax card, and you must withhold 40% in tax.
Okay. So if you do not have a tax card, you get taxed the highest amount possible to make sure that you pay all the taxes that you could be paying.
Yes.
If you have a tax card,
that only happens when you're not reporting your income the proper way. You have an opportunity to do that in Denmark. If you don't want anyone knowing where that money's coming from, you can report it that way, but you pay more money in taxes. Get it?
when you get that, you can either, as a young person who maybe delivers newspapers, I don't know, but doesn't earn a lot, you have the frikort or the tax exempt card, or then you have a primary tax card or a secondary tax card if you have more than one employer.
Yes.
Okay.
And the primary tax card can also be without the tax-free amount per month. If you, for example, have your own business, then you must pay the tax of the profit that you have from your own business. And in the first place, we take from the allowance per month, and then we'll make some forms you can pay if you will have to pay more in tax.
Okay.
And the personal allowance, that is an allowance everybody in Denmark have. Even a newborn child have the right to a personal allowance. And that means that you can earn 46,000, approximately 47,000 per year without paying tax.
Even a newborn child in Denmark has has the right to that.
So if you arrive
that personal allowance.
The 1st of July, you can have for 6 months. That means you can have 23,500 in tax-free amount.
Okay. So if I say I move to Denmark for
1st of July, you can have for 6 months. That means you can have 23,500 in tax-free amount.
Okay. So if I say I move to Denmark 1st of July in a year, whatever money I earned in another country before the 1st of July,
we don't care about.
Okay.
We only care about the stuff that you have abroad from the period that you are tax liable to Denmark. So if you have a house in another country, you sell it before you arrive to Denmark, then you will not have to report it here in Denmark.
Okay.
But if you still have it after you have arrived to Denmark, and you arrived the 1st of July and you sold your house the 1st of September, then you'll have to report it for July and August.
Okay. That makes sense. And now we talk.
But if you ask an American that works for the Trump administration, that don't make sense at all. But in other words, if you sold your house a year before you came to Denmark, you won't have a problem. Okay, 6 months, you might be pressing it if it's under 6 months, but a year, you won't have to share that profit. That's just money. You know, you have to report what you have, though. You know, you have to, but it's so easy to report it. You put it in the bank. That's not taxable, though. That's the money you come with. They're not taxing the money you come with. They want you to report it so they know how much you have. And by the way, it also has something to do with where you come from. If you come from the U.S., you got to get a guarantee that, you know, so that means the bank has to write a statement to say they guarantee you have this amount of money in case you run into some emergency, so you're not a burden on the state. But listen, the United States could do that. That's called comprehensive immigration reform. Why isn't the United States willing to engage in comprehensive immigration reform? Why does it not want to? Because it wants to colorize immigration. That's my view of it. That's my opinion. It wants to be bigoted instead of just making the law apply to everybody and giving people an incentive to report what they have, and then giving them a fine if they find out that they have more than what they're reporting. Pretty much, why not just do it like that? You see what I mean? But that's the kind of, see, when I talk, I'm a Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. So I'm from Washington, D.C., but I live in Copenhagen, Denmark. So what I see in the Danish tax system here, I quite naturally ask, why the fuck aren't we doing that in the U.S.? You see what I mean? Now, and I've been saying this, even the right wing in Denmark supports universal health care and universal education. Why doesn't the right wing in the U.S. support universal education and universal health care? Why don't they? What's the incentive? What's the reasoning behind it? And because I think it's more than just conservatism. It's not conservatism. It's something else.
Quite a bit about the tax card and the different tax cards. So do I actually contact the tax authorities?
Okay, so let's get this. I'm going to put this video in the chat. People can look at it. Those of you that want to know more about the Danish tax system, look at it, read it. It's in English, this information, so that's really great. Let me just type it one more time. The Danish tax system, because there's a lot to it. Obviously, it's not all going to get explained, but there's some other math that we need to do for Americans so that they have a good look at what's going on here. So let me open up some of the data that I pulled up on Gemini. 2 seconds. Alrighty. So let's see here. Actually, I got to do my taxes finalize my taxes in the next week before I go on vacation. Before May comes, I got to finalize my taxes. So I need to look at that as some information I need to report before it's finished. But let me see here. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one right here. So let me open this up. And now people want to know about how Denmark got this system. And the story is just as important as how, right? How is one part, but if you don't know the story, what provoked people to do it, you kind of missing half of the story, right? You kind of missing part of the relevance, right? And so that's what I want to do here, share some of that information. Now, the Danish miracle, is it a recent accident? Or isn't it a recent accident? It isn't a recent accident. It's the result of a century-long social contract built on high trust and specific historical reforms. Okay. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. There's particulars to it. And if you don't know the particulars, it's kind of hard for Americans to engage these things in their own way that works. Right. So to understand how they achieved this, the Danes, and how the tax system supports it, it helps to look at the three pillars of their success. Okay. Historical foundation. What is historical foundation? Historical foundation could be the problems and the struggles that the society, that the people of the country, the citizens of the country have gone through for generations and generations. That's historical foundation, historical context for wanting a system like Denmark has today. They had to have an incentive, right? They had to have some incentives to make them do that. So does the United States have those? Do the people of the United States have those incentives or not? Okay. Transparency. That's another key pillar in the tax system and in the system. You show what you kind of show what you have, not in grotesque terms, but I mean, at least to the government in the tax system, they know what you have. They know what you own, and that's how you're taxed. And I always wondered, why are people so scared of that? To me, it tells me they have a really different idea of what patriotism is and what being an American is. Like, when you're obsessed with hiding what you have from the government, what's that about? Why does anyone want to hide? If you have a right to it, why should you hide it? I don't get that one. But and then revenue structure, right? So how the money is split up, right? Okay. So historical foundations, high trust. Unlike many nations that built welfare states through revolution, right? Because the welfare states you could have armed revolution in some countries. Denmark didn't have that, right? Denmark's model grew out of agricultural cooperation. Agricultural cooperation. Okay. Denmark was a big agricultural country, right? A lot of farming, things like this. Scandinavian countries they work together in different ways. Some of them they made deals on what they focused on, and then they traded with each other. And so Denmark was big in agriculture. Okay. So when I came to Denmark, 60% of Denmark was farmland, and I knew that how I knew that? I first read that on the plane coming to Denmark, reading a book about Denmark, like straight up. That's what I read. That's like almost 20 years ago. Now, is 20 years ago, in the 1890s to the 1900s, right? While the U.S. was in the Gilded Age of unregulated monopolies, Denmark introduced its first universal old age support in 1891, a formal income tax that came into law in I guess it was in 1903, right? It introduced it in 1891. 10 years later, it's law, right? Now, the Grundtvig, this is a person people study, right? It's a famous Danish philosopher. Okay, so when you go to school, you hear this person's name mentioned often. It's from elementary school and on up. Okay, now kind of like we talk about founding fathers, except this is a social revolution here, a philosopher that's being talked about, right? Interesting. Okay, influence. In the 19th century, philosopher NFS Grundtvig pushed for folk high schools. That's public high school, right? To educate rural laborers. Okay, they expanded the education system so that rural farmers could get access to it. This created a culture where the lowest of the low felt like they were valued stakeholders. Yeah, don't people in America have an issue with feeling treated unfairly? Yep, they sure do, because they sure talk about it like that. You won't replace us, and the system is against us, and all types of things. But I don't think they really contextualize it well. They don't really understand what's really happening to them. And again, don't point up. They point across the board at people just like them to blame instead of looking up. Right now, they created a culture where the lowest of the low felt like they were valued stakeholders, leading to a society that views taxes not as theft by the state, but as a membership fee for a functional community. Let me look at the chat when they said that. You want a community functioning well, not just yourself, but do you want the community that you live in, that you have to leave your house and walk down the street? Do you want shit working right? Yeah, that's what's behind it, that motivation. Okay. A membership fee for a functional community. Yeah. 1960s, boom. During the post-World War II era, Denmark used high economic growth to rapidly expand the public sector. Teachers, doctors, infrastructure, cementing the idea that the state provides the tools for individual success. See, the state's not replacing individual success. It just plays a major role through taxes in providing the tools. That's a different philosophy, a philosophy that you haven't heard Americans say about Denmark or other Western countries. They actually call it socialism. No, that's not what it's called here. It's called providing the tools so people can have individual success on their own. If you want to go to get an education, there's not a fee. You get a salary to go, or you get a stipend to go. But what you make of your education is all on you once you get in the class. That's on you. You don't have to come out to be the best student. You don't have to come out to even pass. You could fail. That's all on you. That's nobody else's fault. That's on you, the individual, because you had the opportunity. That's how it's viewed. Okay. Let's see here. Public sector, teachers, doctors, cementing the idea that the state provides the tools for individual success. Okay, so how the tax system works, 2026 data. The Danish tax system is famously simple but aggressive. In Denmark, Social Security isn't a separate line item like in the U.S. Almost everything is funded directly through personal income tax. Okay, the current tax brackets, approximate. After the standard deduction of roughly 49,000, that's the deduction, rough deduction a year. You know what I'm saying? That's $7,200 US dollars, right? That's the deduction. Well, that's the standard one. Some people get more, some people get less, right? Here we go. Labor market contribution, 8%. Multiple municipal tax, 25%. Bottom bracket pays 12%, top tax plus 7.5. Let me go back here to make sure. Yeah, minus 12%, minus 25 municipal tax. Okay, so let me see how that. I want to make sure I'm understanding how that works out. But in any case, can y'all see this? Hold on, you can't even see this. So there we go. So let me continue. All right. The result, the average Dane pays a total effect rate of about 45 to 50% tax, right? Some pay less. I paid less. I paid 41%, I believe, actually, in reality. But we pay nothing for healthcare. We pay nothing for university. We pay nothing for technical schools. They are actually paid a stipend to attend. So everybody here is paid a stipend to attend school, subsidized and heavily subsidized childcare. So childcare, some of it is paid for by the state, and some, depending on how much money you make, you have to cough out yourself. Like I had to pay a little extra sometimes also. Let's see here, or people in my tax bracket. Data comparison, Denmark versus U.S. To help Americans visualize the scale, look at where the money comes from. Denmark relies almost entirely on individuals and consumption, whereas the U.S. has a more fragmented system. Key statistical differences. Tax to GDP ratio. Denmark total tax revenue is roughly 43.4% of their GDP. In the U.S., it hovers around 25 to 27%. You see? Direct benefits. In the U.S., a middle-class family might pay 25% in taxes, but then pay additional 15 to 20% of their income on health insurance premiums, deductibles, and college saving, right? In Denmark, those hidden costs are prepaid through the 45% tax, right? Of course, you get deductions with that. Sales tax, VAT, Denmark, right? This is the sales. Somebody asked about sales tax earlier. This is the sales tax. Denmark has a flat 25% value added tax on almost everything. Americans who are used to 0 to 10% sales tax find this the hardest pill to swallow. But it ensures that consumption by the wealthy also heavily funds the state. Why? Because the wealthy consume more, way more than you see that? So that's who's really getting hit there, because the wealthy pay that they don't pay more percentage. If you go and buy let's say you go and you buy one bottle of Coca-Cola, you pay 20% tax, sales tax, right? It's fit. You don't see it because it's done differently. It's 20% of the total cost. It isn't the total cost and then plus 20%. No, it's already factored in the price that you see on the label and all of that, right? But the difference is that a poor person can only afford one Coca-Cola soda, for example. A rich person can afford 1 million. And if a rich person is consuming 1 million, then they're paying a lot more. They're contributing back into the society through consumption tax. What do you think about that idea? Should consumption be taxed? If you have more, should you be paying, should you pay for it, or should you pay less when you have more in terms of consumption? You see what I'm saying? If you consume 1,000 Coca-Colas a month, and let's say a poor person or a middle-class person consumes 10, right? Should the tax on those sodas be different for the person that's wealthy? Should it be cheaper for them since they consume more? You tell me. Okay, so let's continue. Here we go. Somebody asked, what is the housing like here? Well, I've lived in both places in the U.S. and in Copenhagen, right? And I'm from D.C., so when I speak about it, I'm talking about D.C. to Copenhagen. And when I first moved to Copenhagen, right, the housing prices were similar. They were comparable. In let's say 2007, housing prices in Copenhagen and DC were comparable. Now housing prices in DC have like tripled damn near. Copenhagen, let me see, for a 3-bedroom flat, that's what I live in, a 3-bedroom flat close downtown, pretty much, adjacent to downtown, basically, right? Adjacent to the center. That's like 5-minute bike ride, 2-minute car ride, right? I pay, what do I pay? I pay something maybe $2,500 a month for a 3-bedroom flat, 2 balconies, dining room, living room, full bathroom, this kind of thing, right? Kitchen, and my rent from 2013 has only gone up like $500 for that's 13 years. So obviously the rent and housing has gone up way more in the United States of America, especially in capital cities and major cities. So housing is cheaper in Copenhagen than it is in the U.S. in the major cities right now. So you see how that works? So let me see here. Yeah. So maybe if you're rich, you might live in them. I don't know. I have a good flat. I live adjacent to the center, which is close, and but I also I get some let me see, housing deduction every once in a while, because see, my economy goes up and down like that, depending on how much I work. Sometimes I work a lot of overtime, not that I have to, but sometimes the company I work for needs it. You know what I mean? So, so I do that. And so when I work more than I typically like to work, or when I work just right, my deduction may be like 200 or 300 krona a month, maybe 600 krona a month maximum. You see what I mean? And then some months is none. I get none. So one of those things that taxes goes to is is deductions, because the less money you make is something called housing insurance. In Denmark, if you lose your job, housing insurance kicks in. If you make less money, housing insurance kicked in. If you already been living in the place, that kicks in. If you can't afford to live in the place in the beginning, when they look at your economy, then you don't get accepted to move in the first place. So, it depends. Like when I moved into this place, my economy was different, so I didn't have those deductions. You see what I'm saying? But I owned a business and some things like that. But when I changed over my job and my career path, then my economy wasn't structured the same. So now I get some of those benefits and things like that. But these are benefits everybody gets. It's built into the tax system, So, so I'm really grateful for that. But it's all based on how much you earn. And like I said, I have to get ready to finalize my taxes in the next week or two, right? And when I go in there and they find out how much extra money I've earned, that's going to mean, I'll give you an example. I got a bill from the housing insurance company from like 5 years ago. It's not even from now, from 5 years ago, where I had to cough up 1,000 krona because they found out I got 1,000 krona too much in housing. I think this is when I was in the middle of some moving or not moving, changing jobs or something like that, right? And was it 5 or 6 years ago? So I had to pay a couple of $100 of that money back. So that can happen also. And so I did that, I paid it immediately, but, there's no real excuse because again, in this tax system, everybody gets 5 weeks paid vacation. Every month you get 2 days vacation. You earn 2 days vacation, paid leave. Every time you have a child, everyone gets, child money when you have a child. If the child lives with you, you get child money. That's also part of that tax system. Let's say you have a child, you get paternal leave also. So the mother and the father can take time off from, you see what I'm saying? So there's a lot that goes into it. So when you pay taxes, you don't complain really. Most people don't complain. Most people know that they're getting a pretty fair share out of their work in Denmark, which makes workers happy or people happy, But let's see here. Let's go back to this. So that sales tax is 25%, and it's called a consumption tax. And so the more you consume, the more money you're generating for the state. In other words, it's 25%. So if a soda cost like a Coca-Cola might cost like 5 crowns, like just under $1 in Denmark. That's if you buy that, or a typical soda might cost just under $1. 20% of that, 20 cents of that is, or 25%, what does it say here? 25% of that is going to the state. But if you're a person that buys one, that's 25 cents. But if you're a person that's consuming a hell of a lot of Coca-Cola, like it doesn't have any health effects or anything like that, you're paying a lot more to the state. You see? Consumption tax. Yeah. If you're a person having parties all the time, consumption tax. You see? Yeah, private parties. Okay. Now, of course, that when you own a business, that's deductible. It's that same tax, consumption tax, is now deductible. I hope you understand that, right? So that also is part of the deductions. You see what I mean? So it's not just tax without meaning. You see what I mean? Yeah. And, so if it's a business and you're consuming, it's tax deductible, a lot of it, these kind of things, that's how it works. So, now, why does it work this way? And the challenge for the U.S., homogeneity, right, versus diversity. Denmark has a small, relatively homogeneous country, which historically makes trusting your neighbor easier. So there you have it. That pretty much is the biggest reason why Americans don't have it. It's not because it's not fairer, and it's not because they don't understand that it's not fair. It's not that politicians don't understand that it's not a fair system, because they obviously do, because everyone else in the West has a system more similar to this, right? What it is culture war. They don't trust their neighbor, so they rather. Okay, so I'm back now, y'all. Sorry about that. Yeah, we having the power outages over here. I don't know. Maybe they're working on something in the street. But in any case, I'm back. So where were we? Yeah, thanks to technology, we can pick up where we left off, right? Now, we were on the question of why, right? Why do they have this system, Denmark? How is it possible to have, right? And let me see here. Let me get to this part. Right, here we go. We went through Grundtvig. Here we go. The tax bracket. Right, here we go. Right. Why it works. Can y'all hear me too? Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Let me take a look at this too. Everybody got me? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now we back to the main part. And the main part is why it works and the challenges for the US, right? These are key questions. And listen, if you don't simply ask these questions and you don't get your politicians talking about this, and you're not asking your politicians these questions, and you're not making these observations, you're not going to get universal health care. Very simple. If the people don't make these observations, which are factual, there's no reason why you even deserve it, to be honest. I mean, yeah, in a fair world, you would deserve it. But listen, part of fairness, you have to want it. That's part of fairness. You actually have to want it and appreciate it and cherish it. You know what I'm saying? It don't just always come automatically. You got to be clever enough and big enough and bold enough and brave enough to want it. You need to go where you haven't gone in the dialogue. And you need to fess up to some problems. You know, it's not the money that's stopping you. This is what it is. Why it works there in Denmark, and the challenges for the U.S. if they want it, right? Homogeneity, right, versus diversity. Denmark is a small, relatively homogeneous country, right? That means only 10% of the population are foreigners. But here's the thing. This is what it does, and this is the key part. It doesn't mean you can't have the same thing just because you have more quote unquote Americans that aren't homogeneous. You know what I'm saying? Homogeneous. You know, that's not what that means, right? But here's what you need to take into account, which historically makes trusting your neighbor easier. But Americans have lived with each other for generations upon generations of generations. So what is it that you don't trust anymore? You still having trust issues? How many generations is the U.S. going to be the most diverse Western country, or one of the most diverse? It's not the most, but you know, it depends on what you mean by let's say most diverse NATO country. Let's say that, right? Yeah, outside of the UK, maybe there's comparisons there. But how long is that going to be a factor when that's part of what being American is? You see what I mean? So why don't you trust your neighbor? It makes it easier when you trust your neighbor, but why don't you trust your neighbor? And we're not talking about one or two of you. We're talking about vast wasp of the population do not trust their neighbor, even if their neighbor looks like them. Even if their neighbor has the same gender, same sexuality, same whatever, same color, they still don't fucking trust them. That's what I'm talking about. Like, and even if it's not the same gender, same sexuality, same color, same whatever, you've been living together all this time. What is your excuse? Denmark doesn't have that excuse. You know, it hasn't been that diverse in its history. It's been primarily Scandinavic people, and maybe Anglos and the Saxons people, the Saxonians mixing together somewhat. You could say this kind of dynamic. But I mean, you know, come on, they've had their cultural battles too. They've had their ethnic struggles. They don't see themselves necessarily as the exact same as some other Europeans either. You see what I mean? So what is it, about this? Americans have been living with diversity for quite some time. You still don't fucking trust your neighbor? I mean, I'm just saying, man. You still don't see your neighbor as the same as you? Okay. All right. I get it. Applying this to mass diverse nations like the U.S. requires a different approach to social cohesion, right? Automation. The Danish tax system is almost entirely automated, right? This is another factor. It's entirely automated. That means all the information is getting in. It's not hidden. It's not hidden on pieces of paper or things like that, right? Most Danes never file taxes. The government sends a digital summary. They click OK and they're done. That's what I just explained. This removes the friction and frustration Americans feel every April. That's right now. You're having that feeling. Yeah, right now. Fairness. This is another thing that if Americans want to do this, these are things they have to think about, right? Fairness argument. Danes often say they don't want to be rich if it means seeing people sleeping on the street. This is something Americans need to work on. Their extreme utilization and comprehension of capitalism. Capitalism is now not a tool. It's kind of for the society. It has become a weapon for people. It's become weaponized in the United States. It's not a tool that's lifting everybody up, being done in a way. Capitalism is not being orchestrated to where it lifts everyone up, because it can. It's being used to weaponize. That's a little different, to create the have and the have-nots. Okay. Danes prioritize a high floor, the minimum standard of living, overall high ceiling, the ability to become a billionaire. Okay. So here, let me see something. Fairness. Let me read that again. Danes often say they don't want to be rich if it means seeing people sleeping on the street. They prioritize a high floor, the minimum standard of living, over a high ceiling, over the ability to become a billionaire. So Danes value safety, a high standard for everyone, over a few people being ultra rich, over a 1% being ultra rich. That's a values thing. Americans have to contend with, this is their value speaking. They value a few ultra rich over the well-being of everyone else. How do you think the average American worker will react if their take-home pay stayed the same, but all health insurance and tuition costs disappeared overnight? Tell me, I wanted to save this for y'all. Tell me how you think they would behave. Yeah, it's a good question to ask. I saved that part. I didn't want to go further. I wanted you all to see this part in real time. This is the $1 trillion question at the heart of the American political divide. If Americans woke up tomorrow to the Danish model, where 50% of their paycheck was gone, but their health care, child care, and tuition were free, the behavior would likely split into 3 distinct psychological reactions. Again, you can talk to your politicians about this. That's what they're for. If you're not having a conversation with your politician about this, you're not going to move the political dial on this. The immediate relief group, lower and middle class. For the millions of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, the behavior would shift from survival mode to planning mode. That's great. That means you have an opportunity to now plan for the future, not just always be in survival mode. Not just always be pointing across the aisle looking to blame someone. That's survival mode. Looking to blame someone like you in the same tax bracket. You can start pointing up. You can start absorbing the totality of the situation you're in. The haves and the have-nots. Okay? You could start really digging in. Okay, reduction of anxiety. The constant background noise of worrying about an ER bill or a car accident would vanish. This is my life right now. I don't have that. Why would I trade the life I have now for the life of the average American? Even though I'm an American citizen that lives outside of Denmark, why would I trade that for anxiety? Everyday petty ass fucking anxiety over stupid shit that could be solved if people wanted to come together and fucking solve them. I'm not petty. Okay. I don't want to be reduced to a petty ass life. Just because I'm middle class doesn't mean I have to live a petty ass life. What the fuck, yo? What the fuck? I'm sorry, but it's just not reasonable anymore to expect of me. I'm not going to do it. You can do that if you want. Okay? If that's what you want, by all means, have that. If that's what you think is going to help you live longer and happier, you just keep that anxiety about that ER bill or car accident. Increase entrepreneurship. Contrary to belief, because Americans have been lied to, that high taxes kill drive, many Danes are more likely to start businesses because they don't fear losing their health insurance if a business fails. Duh. Yes, I did also have a business for some years in Denmark. I had a decent life. I mean, you know, I'm not rich, but this helps change the dynamic. And I know a whole lot of Americans probably don't want to talk about this with their politicians, but they got something wrong when people are talking about how this affects them. It's actually increased entrepreneurship. Contrary, right? Entrepreneurship is what? Get up and go and get it, make a job if you can't find one. That's happening in Denmark. Entrepreneurship, contrary to belief that high taxes kill drive, high taxes don't. Many Danes are more likely to start businesses because they don't fear losing their health insurance if a business fails. I'll say that again. Many Danes are more likely to start businesses because they don't fear losing health care insurance if a business fails. Yeah, that's right. There you have it. A lot of companies are bitching about, I don't want to, you should pay for your own tax, but they're not really thinking. You should pay for your own health insurance, but they're not really thinking about the society and what's really happening. Is it possible for low wage workers to pay for their own health care? Is that possible? Does that help small businesses? Does that help middle class businesses? Does that help anyone start a business? No, it hurts. This helps. Okay, this model actually helps that because now you remove healthcare and education from the equation. You see, everyone's paying for that, for everyone to have access to those things, not just somebody who wants to start a business. Okay, so the burden is not put on them, the people starting the businesses or having the businesses. It doesn't matter what corporation you're dealing with. You could be a $1 million corporation. It's not your business. Somebody else's healthcare. You're not even dealing with that issue as a thriving corporation in Denmark. It's not a factor. It's not a factor for the small businesses or the big ones. Healthcare and education have nothing to do with it. Okay, so it's contrary to what a lot of people have been told in the United States of America. You might see a startup boom among middle-aged Americans who feel locked into corporate job benefits. Eric, you know what I'm talking about, bro. You see what I mean? This is real talk here. We've had this conversation too. It intersects with a lot of the conversations we've had. Education consumption. With the financial barrier removed, Americans would likely see a surge in adult retraining and lifelong learning as a risk of getting the wrong degree. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That changes things. Yeah. The wrong degree is no longer financial and a death sentence. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. Remove education from the money thing. You know, make it accessible for everybody at all phases of their life. Yeah. Allow people to get re-educated without retrained, without having to think about the bill. Sounds to me like we're talking about more freedom. Okay, the loss aversion, group high earners and individualists. Okay, this is a different group. Psychology. What would they think? Humans feel the pain of losing something more than the joy of gaining something. You hear that? This is a psychological aspect of this. Now, people need to think about. And you hear this expressed in right wing politics all the goddamn time in the United States of America. The loss aversion group, high earners and individualists. Psychologically, humans feel pain of losing something more than the joy of gaining something. So even though they're gaining something more, high earners and individualists psychologically, they feel like they're losing something more instead of feeling like they're gaining something more. And that's because they're too stupid to look outside of their own bubble. Very simple. Very simple. I mean, I bet you that billionaire of that healthcare company, did he feel safe walking down the street? Well, he wasn't. He wasn't safe walking down the street because somebody killed his ass because someone was pissed off because they couldn't get fucking healthcare. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, I'm serious. A dude stalked his ass out because he was like, damn, man, I got refused for healthcare. This dude's court case is still going on. Yo, but it's not just about the billionaire who has someone trying to do, enact retribution. It's just about the everyday person too. How does that affect your life when you see your neighbor struggling? When you see your neighbor have cancer and they can't afford the treatment? How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel when a guy who supported his family his whole life, or a mother, all of a sudden gets injured or sick and now she loses everything? How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel like a good neighbor? I don't know. I don't have that experience in life because I live in Denmark. But you can tell me, how does it make you feel in the U.S.? Okay, the sticker shock. Many Americans look at their gross pay as their money. Of course, this is ignorant. Okay, and the tax is theft. Seeing half of the hard-earned bonus disappear would likely trigger a feeling of resentment, regardless of services provided. Absolutely. They won't be complaining on the crime end because more people will have jobs. There will be less crime, less prisons. They won't be complaining on the drug addiction end because there'll be less people turning to drugs when they actually have a progressive lifestyle, something to be happy about other than getting high. You know what I mean? But folks don't always see it that way. Individualists don't always see it that way. It might be something we can consider. And I'm an individualist too, but I'm just not insane. I enjoy walking down the street, and I know when I leave my house, I'm dealing with a lot of other people, and I want to have a safe way to work and home, and I want my kids to be safe too when they go outside and play. How about that? Okay, Mike, I think I want the average American's kids to be safe when they go outside and play. Okay, this is more effective than the motherfucking police. Okay, I'm just saying it is. The police have I don't want to diss police, but goddamn, we Americans in our philosophy, we make the work harder for police than it has to be. That's all I'm saying. And in that, we make it harder on ourselves too. Okay. Quality skepticism. Americans are conditioned to believe private is better. Many would likely behave with extreme suspicion towards the government-run systems, constantly looking for efficiency gaps or complaining about wait times, even if the outcomes, longevity, infant mortality, improve. And that's exactly what they do. They complain about quality and improvements. That's what they do. Why? Because they're being individualists. So if it's not them having a baby right now in their particular exact situation, they don't care about anybody else. But are you a proud American that way? Are you a patriot? Patriots care about other Americans. In fact, they're supposed to care about all other Americans and how they're doing. The consumerist shift. Denmark, high VAT, 25% sales tax would fundamentally change American shopping habits from quantity to quality. From quantity to quality. Yes, quantity. Those 100 Coca-Cola sodas at 25% tax, because you can afford it, versus the American that can't really afford that many, but would prefer to have one as a luxury item here and there, that would change things. Quality. Americans are used to cheap goods and frequent shopping. A 25% tax on everything from iPhones to sneakers would likely slow down the disposable culture. Okay? Americans might start behaving more like Europeans, buying one high quality item that lasts 10 years rather than 5 cheap items that last 2 years. Yeah. Anything wrong with that? Why would you think something is wrong with that? It is true. It is true. It is true. I'm just saying. Hey, how many times have you bought some shit that breaks and you got to go back and buy it again? Yeah. Okay. The social trust. The biggest behavioral change would be whether Americans actually trusted the government to spend that 50% wisely, roughly 50%. If the infrastructure didn't improve immediately, the tax revolt DNA in American history would likely kick in. This is what psychologists have said about Americans. Okay. Comparison table, perception versus reality. Okay. So let me just open this up just to make sure everybody can see this real quick. Boom, boom. Okay, let me do it this way. Got to make sure everyone can read it. So let me scale it down a little so you can see this portion. Everyone gets a chance to see all of it instead of just part of it. Okay, almost there. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go over. Now, comparison table, perception versus reality. The American fear versus the Danish reality. High taxes. Americans think I'll be poor and have no spending money. Danish reality. Most have high disposable income because they have zero emergency debt. Universal care. Americans fear I'll wait 6 months for a doctor and care will be bad. Danish reality. High quality preventative care, shorter waits than many U.S. rural areas. Yeah. Free college. American fear. Degrees will become worthless if everyone gets one. Of course, that's not how that works because everyone won't be good. Even people that graduate in the U.S., some of them, that shit just not even worth the paper it's printed on. A highly skilled, but the Danish reality is that free college produces a highly skilled workforce that keeps the country competitive in tech and green energy. That's the reality. So let me scale it back down so we can continue with this part here. I appreciate those of you that hung in there with me on this. Now let me see here. And you know what? We're going to do some more of this, but I think this helps Americans because although we're stubborn, here's the thing. At least you get access to the information, and at least you get access to the information from someone who's not just giving you a quick summary. No, you get a lot more in-depth information, which you really do need in order to make a real decision. Don't be spooked out of being smart. Okay. And I'm telling you, the billionaires that own legacy media, they know you're going to get spooked out of being smart because they're going to spread more spookism. So you can be spooked out of it. So the witty perspective. If you told an American worker, I'm taking $2,000 more from your check this month, they'd probably chase you out of the room. But if you said, I'm taking $2,000, but in exchange, you will never see a medical bill, your kid's college is paid for, and I'm giving you 5 weeks of paid vacation, they might just hand you the pen. Yeah, because that's the deal I signed up to. Who else in the chat lives in a country where they signed up to a deal like that and have it? I'm going to say that's the deal I signed up for. Here, I'm going to put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you signed up for that deal. If you exchanged $2,000 for no medical debt. Let me see. What else was it here? Yeah. $2,000, but in exchange, $2,000 a month, but in exchange, you will never see a medical bill. Your kid's college is paid for, and you get 5 weeks paid vacation every year, right? $2,000 is not really that much money these days anyway. So don't be fooled by it. But yeah, I think it's worth a look at it, and I know it's worth a look at it. But a lot of Americans, who knows how to be able to navigate this emotionally, because it will be more than practical. It will be psychological and emotional transformation. As what was explained earlier. The facts support the Danish model being implemented in the U.S. The emotional targeting and the cultural wars and all of this stuff, and the distrust of neighbors and the average American, the distrust of the average American that the average American has, prevents a sound system from emerging. Okay. The struggle is that Americans are transactional. We want to see what we get for our money immediately. The Danish model requires faith and a collective, a we instead of a I, which is the hardest cultural bridge to cross. Yeah, I crossed it, and it's been transformative, and I think about what I got out of it, and I look at America right now, and I see what I got out of it very clearly. What I got out of it is a safer life, a sounder life experience, more quality of life. That's what I got out of it. Right now, I see family members struggling, people packed up and all together, can't even, still worried about the fucking bills. Multiple people. It's like, why is it happening like that? Why are people struggling so much just to get by in the United States of America? I mean, yeah. Now, let me look at the chat now that I finished that. Yo, folks, I hope you liked the presentation. Of course, again, it's not finger pointing. This show was not a left-right finger pointing contest. So if you're stuck on that adrenaline, you didn't get that from this. All right. If you needed to blame Democrats or Republicans for this, you didn't get anything out of this one. This one was boring for you, because this presentation points the finger at Americans, all Americans, and what they don't discuss. What you have out of your politics comes from your own mind, good or bad. Whatever failure you're having is a failure for Americans to address the issues with other Americans. That's what being a collective is all about. And you just have to accept that. So not being a collective and not working as a collective is probably the dumbest thing you could do when it comes to taxes, because the whole idea of taxes is about the collective. So Americans are attempting to do the opposite of what a tax system is really designed for. It's kind of fucked up. But let me see here. Harbor Nip says, as soon as I seen this boat on the back of his truck, I handed him my passcode keys and told him to go F himself. Okay. 2 weeks later, he called me and asked me to return it, and he would give me $2 more an hour. I told him, nope, I'm moving to Dutchland. Damn. Yeah, man. Dutchland is most Western European countries are in the same boat with this kind of tax system, essentially. And when you say Dutchland, hold on, are you talking about Germany? Or are you talking about the Netherlands? I'm sorry, I get confused, man. That's my fault. But let me see. I gave 1,000 a week and didn't get any of that. Other people did. I still got to pay for my own. Well. That was Donald. Donald, can you tell us where that is, at least? What country in town are you talking about? And I gave thousands a week and didn't get any of that. Yeah, I don't know what you don't have that in the United States of America. The system that the show today is, can the U.S. learn from the Danish model? So the United States doesn't have anything close to anything Danish model. So, and the reason why that's the show is to talk about those differences. So I don't know what your experience is in the U.S., but you're experiencing the American model right now. And so whatever you gave money for, that was the American model. That wasn't the Danish model at all. But let us know what country you're from. Sounds to me like maybe you might be from another country or something. I don't know. But in any case, I appreciate everybody for coming out. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's useful information to people that hear this video, do me a favor. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to click the like button. I know we had some power outages here. There's about 2 in the stream, but on the replay, they won't exist. So, yeah, that's the good thing about the program I use. It works with YouTube, so it cuts out dead feed energy, right? So it won't be in the replay. You'll just see the feed. You'll just see me continuing. But share the video if you want to have more Americans talking about this type of system. If you at least want them to be aware of it. You can't talk about what you're not aware of, and we rarely talk about this. Rarely. We talk about healthcare, but not in a way where we get comparative data. And my stance is that, because I'm into anthropology, my stance is that if you don't go out there and just give everybody the facts and take your time doing it and surveying people, asking them what they think about it, then you really don't know what's going on. Like, straight up. And all Americans, no matter if they're right wing, no matter if they're left wing, no matter if they're independent, no matter if they're Democrat, no matter if they're Republican, no matter if they're not, they deserve to have the facts presented to them and to be surveyed, asked the questions, so that what they think is known in a system that requires people to pay taxes. You see what I'm saying? So that's my view about it. Now, I appreciate everybody. I'm going to be out of here, and I hope everybody has a good start to their week. And I will catch up with you all in a few. All right. So be good. All right. Treat everybody well and get Trump the hell out of here, because Trump doesn't want to do a damn thing for Americans, so F him. See y'all. Peace.
Cause I love you and I want you to love me too, girl.
Let's go. I just want to see ya.
Want to love the way you love the way I love you. I just want to.
Yeah, this is my homie Niels on the vocals there, on the hook.
I love the way I love you. You my TRL, I'm looking at you. The look in my eye, you can tell that I wanna know you, better yet show you that I treat you right, this I owe ya. The feelings I feel are not obscene. It's no secret I'll go in public and scream. I'll LOV you, my baby girl. The feeling's so true, we can make our own world. We were made for each other, I feel like you love. We had a child, we be father and mother. There ain't no other I'd rather spend my time with. This love can endure anything that splits. If it wasn't legit, you wouldn't hear it. I could never be confused by your spirit. We just take it still a rollie, cause we both know what we do. I'm in LOV with you. I just want to love, baby girl. Love the way you love me. The way I love you. I just want to, hey, I want to love. Oh, love the way you love me. The way I love you. I love you, girl. Just relax, 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 just relax. Hold your hand when we in town. Protect this love, even in the underground. Joy to God needing brunch on a blanket. This God that granted us these days, I thank it. It's no wonder why I'm comfortable with you. It's all the simple things for me that you do. When you rub my back, this feeling so nice. Much more than reunion and ice. It's about the kindness I can see in your face, and the way it's at the right time and place. No other woman I'd rather spend my time with. This love is so fresh I can taste. I just want to love the way you love the way I love you. I just want to love the way you love. It's about you. Love the way I love you. I love you. Just relax, 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 just relax. hell. What? It's like that. Can you feel it? Nothing can save ya, cause this is the season of funky behavior. I came to relax your mind, you can recline. On what? On this here rhyme. I like the style, I'm staying for a while. It helps me show cats that I'm versatile. I'll touch your dial, turn your frown to a smile. I'll make you feel like you're having a child. So relax and open up, style. I'm about to make you walk what? Pimp style or pimped out style. You don't understand the logic. See if you don't have it all, I'll take a deposit. I got shit for you, it's alright indeed. It's like going to the garden and planting the seed. It might tickle for a second, but it won't bleed. So just relax, just hear a dope track. I'm just real nice, everything is real fat. You don't have to do work, we do that. It's the type of place where you can wear your hat. Just relax and just hear a dope track. I'm just real nice, everything is real fat. You don't have to do work, we do that. It's the type of place where you can wear your hat. Your entertainment at the same time, edutainment. In other words, you could call it bent. What I'm saying is that I'm here at your service. It's hard work, but then again, I deserve this. I'm helping people enjoy their spare time. I'm like an instructor when I'm doing my rhyme. Relax and just hear the dope track. It's really not all that, it's not like a gat. We like that when everything is relaxed and chill. You don't have to get fucked up or take pills, cause I like being myself, it feels good. Yo, it makes my meals taste good. 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 So just relax. If you're a dope track, I'm just real nice, everything is real fat. You don't have to do work, we do that. It's the type of place where you can wear your hat. Just relax. And you're a dope track, I'm just real nice, everything is real fat. You don't have to do work, we do that. It's the type of place where you can wear your hat. Just relax. My mind state, now balloon, it won't inflate. Just take the buzz, this much wiser kid, fuck the shade. And take it to a lower level, and dig a ditch for a devil. Got some more kids and pass the shovel. Dig a hole, take them on a spiritual roll. Lyrics unfold, lead the data, unroll the scroll. Episodes keep reoccurring and stifling. People's vision get blurring, their hearts start murmuring. I'm about 5 times iller than a Sherman. Introspection is God's gift to the miracle. I freak material, lamb's milk without the cereal. When MCs say your booty, they mean venereal. Your fake material hip-hop killers, they more faking than fucking Michael Jackson and Thriller. The status of a hoe, Quanto Costa. They wanna know how much it costs, kid, I bet for keep tell me just relax and just hear a dope track. The vibes is real nice, everything is real fat. You don't have to do work, we do that. It's the type of place where you can wear your hat. Just relax and just hear a dope track. The vibes is real nice, everything is real fat. You don't have to do work, we do that. It's the type of place where you can wear your hat. Just relax.